Good day to everyone, wherever and whatever time you are listening to us. First of all, thank you for joining us. This is basically our trial class for ICAAW corporate reporting. This is basically our first slide of orientation. We have already covered our orientation in our previous lecture. So this is just basically a recap of orientation. If you have any question, then you can write to us. This is basically my brief profile that I shared with you people. So what we are going to do in today's lecture, our focus will be on corporate reporting exam. So what is the structure of corporate reporting exam? What contents are included in our corporate reporting exam? And what is basically a syllabus of corporate reporting exam? In advanced level, as I told you that we have three different exams: corporate reporting, strategic business management, and case study. In today's lecture, we are just going to focus on our one exam, one topic, that is basically the corporate reporting. So corporate reporting will be discussed today and SBM will be discussed in our next lecture, that is tomorrow as well. So let's talk about the syllabus of corporate reporting. In corporate reporting, we have different components included basically. First of all, our major portion of corporate reporting consists of reporting portion, and it includes both IAS, International Accounting Standards, and it also includes IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards as well. And approximately 55 to 65% of your syllabus consists of this single portion, IAS and IFRS basically. This means your syllabus percentage. Sometimes students confuse this percentage with exam, like your 55 to 65% of marks will be from reporting side. It might be or it might not be, but this is your syllabus percentage. We will discuss the exam structure as well. In audit, our second major topic is basically about audit. Approximately 30 to 40% of your syllabus belongs with your corporate reporting area as well. So 30 to 40% for your corporate reporting side. This is again also your syllabus as well. And approximately 5 to 10% of your marks will belong with your ethics side as well. What are the ethical issues? What are business stress issues? So how we can resolve those issues as well, because ethics are very, very important, not only for one or two exams, instead all of 15 exams of ICAAW. So this is basically a syllabus structure of corporate reporting. If we conclude, then we have three areas: first IAS and IFRS, second auditing, and lastly we have ethics structure here as well. If you just have an overview, this is just basically just a slide of your corporate reporting. And this is basically our corporate reporting exam structure basically. In corporate reporting, we will be having three questions. Question number 1, question number 2, and question number 3 here as well. Question number 1 will be approximately 40 marks. And this 40 marks will be divided into accounting and reporting section. So most of the time, this 40 marks question belongs with your accounting and reporting side. Like it would be about IAS and also about IFRS as well. And there will be a small portion of our ethics structure here as well. So here we will be studying about IAS. We will also be studying about IFRS, and we will also be discussing about the ethics as well. Ethics are basically the inbuilt. Ethics might be discussed in question 1, in question 2, or in question 3. So it depends on examiner how the exam is being set out. So you have to be mentally ready that ethics can be examined in any of your questions as well. Question number 2, that is approximately 30 marks. And this question is basically again a mix. This could be a reporting question, or it could be an integrated question as well. What do you mean by integrated? It means it could be a combination of both reporting and auditing question as well. So reporting sides could be discussed, auditing side could be discussed, or it might be a mixture of both reporting and auditing side here as well, basically. And lastly, question 3. that is approximately for 30 marks. Again, this is basically our integrated question. As I told you previously that in integrated question, there will be reporting side, there will be audit side as well. So for example, if there is a question about IFRS 5, we already know that IFRS 5 is basically about two areas. First of all, non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operations as well. So examiner might discuss about non-current assets held for sale. So according to IFRS 5, you have to discuss the criteria. You have to apply IFRS 5 criteria into your exam situation. And then you have to discuss what are the audit issues, audit risks, and what audit procedures you might apply in given circumstances as well. So this will be a question in this way as well. So you have to be ready. Like there are one or two integrated question, and again 1 to 2 questions will be from your reporting side as well. So this is basically an exam structure: 40 marks, 30, and 30 marks here as well. These marks, these divisions are approximately, actual marks might vary. For example, it might be 42, it might be 28, but this is a rough estimate. In total, you will be having 100 marks, and passing marks are basically the 50%. So passing is basically at 50%. It doesn't matter how you get the 50%. In short, you have to get the 50% mark to make sure that you are qualifying for corporate reporting exam basically. So this is basically a short structure that I just discussed for corporate reporting. Apart from this, we also had our orientation last week. So if any of you attended, that's good. If anyone who didn't attended our orientation, they can just send us QD. So we will share the link of orientation here as well. So now, after discussing the syllabus and exam structure of corporate reporting, let's see what's included in our corporate reporting exam basically. So what IAS, what IFRS, what auditing standards you need to study, and how we are going to study. So stay tuned at the end. First of all, we will discuss what is your syllabus for corporate reporting, and then we will discuss what will be our approach, because you can see approximately there are 1600 pages. In ICAW, there are more than 1600 pages in corporate reporting study manual. In corporate reporting study manual, there are 1600 plus pages. So do you think, can you cover? First of all, the point is that, can you cover these 1600 pages? Can you read out? Then the very next question would be, can you remember these 1600 pages? Can you revise these 1600 pages before your exam, considering your job, your training with ICAW? So there are a lot of things, because in ICAW, in study manual, we have 1600 pages. But you should not be worried, because we have some smart notes here as well, like as I'm showing on my screen. So we will discuss these notes, what will be included for you people. We will discuss just after a few minutes. So this is basically our corporate reporting syllabus for 2021 exam as well. So first of all, if you are appearing and if you think you have to appear in corporate reporting exam, so the very first step would be, you should download this corporate reporting syllabus from your ICAAW website. Why I am referring this? Because you should learn, first of all, you should download this syllabus, and then you should highlight, when we will be covering our topics, our points, then you should highlight what points, what syllabus contents we have covered and what we need to cover here as well. So at the end, we will be covering all of these contents, and there will be nothing left for our exam. So you should definitely download, and then you should proceed basically. Unfortunately, most of the students do not download, and they do not know what is their syllabus. They just talk about the different standards, different pages, the syllabus is, first of all, you should download this. So let's move directly to our corporate reporting exam basically. We have discussed this, the syllabus content. Yes, this is basically our syllabus for our corporate reporting exam. So in front of your screen, you can see that we have certificate and professional level, first of all, and secondly, we have advanced level here as well. So our this topic, our this class will be focusing on advanced level. We will not be discussing the certificate or professional level in this class here as well. We have a lot of standards, we have a lot of points. Before we move forward, you can see that there are different alphabets. You can see A, B, C, and afterward you can see that there will be a D alphabet here as well. So different alphabets are here, A, B, C, and D. So first of all, you should understand what do you mean by A, B, C, and D here as well. Basically, there are four different alphabets: A, B, C, and D here as well. So we will be starting from D. So what do you mean by D? D mean you just need the awareness. You do not need to go for in detail. For example, if we talk about IAS 41, then IAS 41 is basically about agriculture. Like what are your living plants, what are your living animals, and how you should proceed, how you should account for your agriculture, how you should proceed your plant, your animals. This is basically about IAS 41. You should just know the basic rule. Examiner is not going to discuss the technical areas of IAS 41 basically. So this is basically about your D level. You can say D level is also called as awareness level as well basically. If you talk about the C level, then C level, it involves little bit complication as compared to D level. So in C level, you should know about some of the areas, some of the basic calculation, and how you can perform some of these calculation here as well. In B level, again, there will be a little bit higher level as compared to C level. So you should know in detail, you should have a very good understanding. You must have sound understanding of your topic, and then you should move forward. In A level means you need expert level knowledge. So there will be complex areas, judgment, auditing issues, reporting issues, and you must be familiar with all of your topics with your complete and comprehensive understanding of that particular topic here as well. So in advanced level corporate reporting, we will be seeing that there are different levels that are being used, but most of them will be at A level here as well. Now, let's start our discussion. What are these topics? First of all, we have International Financial Reporting Standard. You must have idea about IASB structure. What is International Accounting Standard Board? How this board works out basically. How different IAS and IFRS are being formed. Who is basically being involved in process of a new IAS or IFRS. Probably you must have heard about IFRS 15. That is fairly a new standard. That is basically a replacement of IAS 18 basically. We also have IFRS 16. That is basically about leases, and it is basically a replacement of IAS 17. So how this IFRS 15 and IFRS 16 was formulated? Who was involved in this formulation? There was a complete process. You must have a good understanding how these IAS and IFRS are basically being formulated. Moving forward, we have conceptual framework for financial reporting basically. So what is conceptual framework? What are different definitions, different criteria? For example, we have transparency, we have true and fair view, we have applicable reporting framework, we have conceptual, we have different types of concepts like accrual accounting, matching concept, different types of concept, because it is a fundamental for preparation of your financial statement. Then we have very important standard, that is IAS 1, that is presentation of financial statements basically. So how you should present your financial statement? It will depend, either you are preparing financial statements for which entity. Either this entity will continue its operations in a normal way, or this entity might be these operations might be discontinued operations. So it will depend, because we have different structure, we have different formats for continuing operation, we have different formats for discontinuing operations. So IAS1 is basically the very important standard. All of other standards, they need to follow IAS1 basically. Then IAS2, that is basically about inventory. So yes, probably you might have heard about inventories, how we have to record about inventories. Normally, when we talk about the inventories, then normally students say, they just mention the one point, inventories are recorded at lower of cost or NRV. No, it is not just about lower of cost or NRV. You must understand what is inventory, how this can be classified as an inventory. For example, if we have a building, if we use the word building, then students normally say that this building is going to be classified under IAS 16 normally. This might be true for your previous studies, but this might be or might not be true for your ICAEW advanced level. Why? Basically, it will depend upon the intention. It will depend upon the usage of that building here as well. It might be possible your company, your organization might have a business of property. They might be buying new buildings. It might be buying and selling different buildings here as well. So if you are buying something and if you have an intention to resell it at a future date, then it means something that is for resale purposes, anything that is for resale purposes, it is classified under IAS2 inventories basically. So this is a building, but this might be according to IAS2 inventory. If you think you have to use this building for production of goods or supply of services, yes, this might be classified according to IAS 16. But if you think if you have to keep this building for your investment purposes or rental purposes, so this might be classified according to IAS 40. This is investment property. This building might be classified according to your IFRS 5, assets held for sale. We might need to apply our IAS 36, that is basically about impairment of assets here as well basically. This might be basically about IAS 36, that is basically about impairment of assets. So this is a building, we can apply different standards and these points are being tested out ICAEW. So at this advanced level, examiner basically test out the advanced level points. You must have good ideas of basics and then you should move forward basically. So simply you cannot say that building is basically about IAS 16. So I hope that you people will be having a good idea. Further, we will be discussing in detail. Before we move forward, first of all, let me tell you people that we will be starting from our basics, like how different standards are being formulated, and then we will cover our IAS2 inventories basically. And then we will cover IAS 16, property, plant, equipment, and then we will move forward. First of all, we will cover our non-current assets like IAS2, IAS 16, and then we will go through our relevant standards and all of other points here as well, basically. Then we have our point that is IAS 7, that is cash flow statement, IAS 8, accounting policies changing in accounting estimates and errors as well. So what do you mean by accounting policy? Can you change the accounting policy of any organization? Can you change accounting policy during the year or after year end basically? What is accounting estimate? What is the difference between policy and estimate? What do you think basically? Is it depreciation an accounting policy or it is an accounting estimate? Straight line basis, reducing balance method. What do you mean by accounting errors and how you can correct, how you can classify these accounting errors here as well? Then next we have IAS 10, events after the reporting period. So you must understand what are the events and how different events are going to affect your financial statements basically. Either they are going to affect or they are not going to affect your financial statement. What you need to do if these events are material, what you need to do if these events, if their impact is immaterial basically. So there will be different circumstances, so different treatments will be applied in this situation. Then we have a very next very important standard, that is basically IAS 12 income taxes. Its name is basically the income tax, but mostly students refer it with the name of deferred tax because most of these concepts are basically about the deferred tax basically. In deferred tax, we will be studying, we will be talking about deferred tax liability, deferred tax asset, and then we will calculate, we will estimate, we will see what is the impact of deferred tax on different transactions. For example, on your IFRS 3 business combination, on your provisions, on your receivables, on financial instruments, and many other transactions as well. Then we have IAS 16 property plant equipment. I hope that you will be aware. What do you mean by IAS 16? And that is a very common standard that is being used by multiple entries. Then we have IAS 19 employee benefits. Again, this is a very, very important standard, employee benefit. So what are the different benefits that can be offered by an organization to its different employees? How we can classify different benefits? How we can account for different transactions according to our IAS 19 basically. Then we have IAS 20, that is basically about accounting for government grants and government assistance basically. So what is the difference between government grant and government assistance? What do you mean by government grant and what do you mean by assistance? Because there is a very minute, there is a very thin line between grant and assistance. So you must know the rules of grant and assistance because we have different accounting treatment for grant and assistance. Then we have IAS 21, the effects of changes in foreign exchange rate. So if your entity is being involved in foreign operations like buying or selling goods or providing services, then this standard will be applicable for your entity. If you have some operations like subsidiary, associate, branch, or any other thing, any other involvement with your foreign country, then definitely this standard is very, very important for your entity, because you are going to face the changes in exchange rate. So there might be favorable changes, there might be adverse changes at some times of the year. So what you need to do, how you can record different transactions, basically this is basically about IAS 21. As I told you, that there might be favorable exchange rates, there might be adverse exchange rate here as well. So if you think your economy is not good, their policies are not good, exchange rates are going to adverse, but you have some connections with foreign countries. So what you need to do, you need to plan out here as well. You have to use the different concept. One of the most important concept is basically about hedging. IFRS 9. We have to apply IAS 39 basically. So we will discuss in detail. We will also discuss about IAS 39 individually, and we will also look at the impact of IAS 39 on our IAS 21 transactions here as well. We have borrowing cost. Borrowing cost is basically about IAS 23. So if you have to construct a building, if you have to construct something for your office, for your organization, then you might need to borrow from your bank, from your financial institution here as well. So this is basically the finance cost. So what is the accounting treatment of this finance cost basically? How we can record this finance cost basically? Either it will be expense out or it might be capitalized. We will look at, because we have different circumstances and different rules here as well. IAS 24, that is basically about related party disclosures. Again, a qualitative standard, a standard that is basically about disclosure standard. Disclosure standard mean here we have to provide the relevant disclosures here as well. So first of all, you will learn what do you mean by a related party, how there is a connection of a person of a director with an organization. So can you think any director, any person can be a related party, or there are some specific rules basically? Definitely, these are important transactions, and there is a high level of audit risk for auditors here as well. IS-26, this is just basically at D level, that is just an awareness level. So we will also study IS-26 along with our IAS-19, that is employee benefit. So major calculations, major portion will be from IAS-19. Regarding IS-26, you must have a very basic idea how we can go for different disclosure. So IS-26 is basically a small disclosure standard for your different benefits. Then again, we have something very important. This is basically IAS-27, IAS-28. IAS-27, that is separate financial statement. IAS-28, investments in associates and joint ventures here as well. So from here, we are talking about the consolidation side. What do you mean by associate? What do you mean by joint venture, subsidiary, control, par? So different rules, different circumstances here we have. Do you think if you have 50%, more than 50%, yes, then it is a subsidiary. In ICAEW, we will also study if you have less than 50% of share. If you have less than 50% of share, then this could also be a subsidiary, because we are talking about the advanced level points here as well. And here we have some questions about this percentage that have been discussed by the examiner. So you should not assume if you will be having more than 50% of share, then it will be a subsidiary. If you have less than 50% of share, but there are some other conditions that are present, then it might be a subsidiary here as well. It might be a subsidiary. You might have control here as well. So you need to learn, you need to discuss about different points here as well. IS-29, again, you can see that IS-29 is at D level. You just need a very basic awareness. Financial reporting in hyperinflationary countries, in different economies here as well. Hyperinflation, everyone will be aware. What do you mean by inflation? Inflation means general increase in prices, but hyperinflation means a very high level of inflation. Very high level of inflation. This is called as hyperinflation here as well. This is a hyperinflation. Unfortunately, we have some countries here we have a hyperinflation front. For example, in Zimbabwe and many other countries, here we have hyperinflation. So if it is inflation, that's fine because we can account for it. But if it is a hyperinflationary environment, because it's a high level of inflation, so how we can go for, how we can record different transactions according to IAS 29. Then we have IAS 32, financial instruments presentation. Yes, definitely. We will see how financial instruments can be presented, financial assets, financial liabilities, equity, and different points. IAS 33, that is again earning per share, how much you have earned and what are total number of share, what is your approximate earning for your per share. IAS 34, that is basically about interim financial reporting. Normally we talk about one point, that is reporting it financial year. So what if your financial statements are being prepared for less than 1 year, this is called as interim. It might be 6 years, it might be 6 months, it might be 9 months, or it could be anything. So anything before year end, this is called as interim. IAS 36, again, a very important standard for your assets. This is impairment of assets here as well. So what do you mean by impairment? How we can record this impairment here as well? Impairment is basically a reverse of your revaluation. So we will see what if we have revaluation, what if we have impairment. It could be possible in same situation during the year, we can have revaluation, we can also face our impairment issues here as well. So how we can record the revaluation, how you can record the impairment, definitely it will be interesting to see. In impairment, this impairment is not specifically for your current asset. It might be your current assets, it might be your non-current assets, or it might involve your intangible assets here as well. And these intangible assets will be discussed in IAS 38 basically. IAS 37 is basically about provisions, contingent liabilities, and contingent assets here as well. So what is the difference between provision and contingent liability? How you should record the provisions, the contingent liabilities basically. Can you record the contingent liabilities? If yes, then what is the appropriate way to go for contingent liability? IAS 39, as I told you, that is financial instruments recognition and measurement, and it involves the hedging side. Apart from IAS 39, we will study IAS 32 and also IFRS 9 here as well. IAS 40, that is basically about investment property, and we already had a very small example from the name of building at the very start of our lecture. That was basically about investment property. IAS 41, that is basically about agriculture, and again it is, as I told you, it is at D level here as well. What is agriculture? In agriculture we will study about different biological processes, living plants, living animals, how we can record. Either we have to go for cost model, we have to adopt fair value model, devaluation model, or any other model, or it might be a mixture of different models here as well basically. Then we have IFRS 1, that is first time adoption of IFRS. It is at C level, so you do not need to be very much worried about IFRS 1. IFRS 2, that is share based payment. Yes, this is something very, very important for corporate reporting exam, because we are studying the UK studies. In UK, in most of the countries, different companies have different policies. So if your entity has a policy to award different shares to your different employees, so how you can record this share? If you are offering shares, for example, if you are offering shares, but offering shares to your employees, so do you think can employees control your company? If you are offering substantial shares to different employees, directors, and many other persons who are part of the company, do you think can those persons collectively control your company? The answer is simply no, because you are offering shares as a part of employee, as a part of benefit. So how you can record different shares, different transaction in this case? IFRS 3, that is business combination. In simple form, that is basically about consolidation. IFRS 3, IFRS 10, IFRS 11, IFRS 12. So these standards are basically the consolidation. We will discuss how different combinations, different transactions can be performed. What do you mean by joint venture, associate, other entities, and how different rules, different disclosures can be performed, can be applied in different circumstances. Then we have a very small standard, that is IFRS 4 insurance contract. Again, it is basically at D level. D level, again, you just need to know how insurance contracts are recorded basically. You do not need to go for in too much detail for insurance contract. And same case for your IFRS 6, that is basically about for your mineral resources, just like for mining. So just you need a very basic idea of how different processes are performed, and simply there will be nothing. IFRS 5, that is basically about non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operations here as well. Remember one thing, whenever the word and is being used, so it means your statement, your line, your point has been divided into two different sections. First of all, it is before and second, it is after and. So we have non-current assets held for sale, first of all, and secondly, we have discontinued operations here as well. Then we have IFRS 7. Again, this IFRS 7 is basically about financial instrument, but it purely relates with your disclosure. We will be discussing the disclosure. Disclosures are basically of two types: qualitative disclosures and quantitative disclosures. Basically, how we can proceed for qualitative and quantitative disclosure. What is the difference? It is important to provide both type of disclosures, or we can only provide one type of disclosure as well. No, it is important to go for according to situation. We will discuss. IFRS 8, this is basically about operating segments. Yes, if your entity has different branches, different segment. So this might be a case of IFRS 8 operating segment, because we have different operation. Again, it is not compulsory, because sometimes some students confuse these operating segments with the branches. If they think we have different branches and each branch can be accounted for, can be considered according to IFRS 8. The answer is simply no. Branch is something different. Operating segments are something different. So you need to learn what are differences between a branch and operating segments, basically. I already explained about IFRS 9, 10, 11, 12. In IFRS 13, we have fair value measurement. So how fair values can be determined, how these values can be calculated. What are the different levels? Here we will study the level 1, level 2, and level 3. If we have different levels, what do we mean by different levels? Why there are different levels here as well? And which level is more appropriate? This level is less appropriate. And what is the best way to use different levels? Can we use all of these levels, or can we use just one or two levels here as well? It is possible that we might have at level 1 at the start of the year, but at the end of the year, your property, your asset might be at level 2 here as well. So there might be different levels even within one single year. IFRS 14, that is regulated deferral accounts, it is at C level. Again, that is just basically about the basics you need to learn about. Then we have something very, very important, that is basically about IFRS 15, that is revenue from contract with customer. And this IFRS 15 is basically a replacement of IAS 18, that is basically revenue recognition, basically, because there were a lot of issues in IAS 18. So we have a new standard, that is IFRS 15. But in IFRS 15, there are two things to note down. First of all, we have revenue. Second, we have contract. Before IFRS 15, there were 2 points. First of all, there was IAS 18, and for contracts, we had IAS 11, that was construction contract. But now we do not have IAS 18 revenue recognition. We do not have IAS 11 construction contract. Why? Because now we have one single standard in the form of IFRS 15 revenue from contract with customer. So in short, IFRS 15 covers both of the areas, IAS 18 as well as IAS 11 as well. Now moving forward, we have IFRS 16, that is leases. Again, this lease standard is basically an advancement of your IAS 17 basically. So now IAS 17 is not applicable. We will be studying about IFRS 16 leases here as well. So what do you think? What has changed from IAS 17 to IFRS 16? There are a lot of points, a lot of changes, because a lot of new issues, a lot of new points have been addressed in IFRS 16 that were problem in IAS 17. IFRS 17 is basically, again, at C level, we have for insurance contract. And lastly, our last point is basically for IFRS for SMEs, that is basically small and medium-sized entities, because the standards that we are discussing, we have different standards for publicly limited companies. We have some small amendments. We have some relaxation for SMEs. SMEs means small and medium-sized entity. Before we go in detail, first of all, just let me discuss for SME. SME means small and medium-sized entities. The point is why we have separate IFRS, why we have a lot of standards, IAS and IFRS, why there was a need for separate IFRS for SME. SME, as its name shows, that we have small entities. So in public limited companies, we have a lot of compliances, like there should be separate person for CEO and corporate CEO and chairman, corporate reporting, corporate governance rules. You must have different committees, audit committee, remuneration committee, HR committee, and many other committees here as well. You must have well established internal audit department, head of internal audit, and a lot of other points. So these points might be applicable for a company, or some of these points might be applicable even for a public limited company as well. Do you think a small company can meet out, can comply with all of these points, with all of these challenges? This could be very, very difficult. It means now you are putting SME in a very big trouble if you are going to use same IFRS as you were using for publicly limited company. So that's why we have relaxation. That's why we have different IFRS for SME. So that was just one reason why we have separate IFRS, why we have separate standards for SME. Further, there are a lot of other points, lot of differences that we need to study, and we will be covering in our complete session here as well. So this was basically an overview of our reporting section, how we have to proceed further, and what is included in our each section. As I told you, first of all, we will be discussing the standard setting process. We will be starting from this topic, how we can go for this point, and then we will be talking about the framework, and then we will be starting from our IAS to inventories basically. So we will be starting from the basic. This will be our approach, because normally sometimes some students think different tuition providers have different techniques, but according to our technique, what we do, we will start from our basics basically. Like the value basic standard is basically about IAS2 inventory. Then we will be covering IAS 16 and many other standards here as well. So why there is a need? Sometimes there are two different types of students. First of all, if you remember, if you have a very good grip on your IAS and IFRS, that's a very good point. It will be a revision for you. There are other type of student. For example, if you passed your previous reporting exam like 3-4 years ago or many years ago, then you might not recall those standards. So to avoid those problems, what we are going to do, we will start from our very basic standard, IAS2 inventories basically. So even if you don't remember, even if you don't recall, then you can easily learn from our different lectures and different points. So it will be helpful for you. It will not be something problematic for you because you do not know the basics. So first of all, covering the basics, and then with slow progress, we will be moving to our advanced level points. For example, financial instruments, hedging, deferred tax, IAS 12, IAS 21, and many other standards here as well. So this is basically our point for our reporting side. In auditing, we have a lot of other points like our audit report, audit risk, audit issues, and many other things here as well. Before we proceed, let me tell you what will be our approach basically. So this will be our approach, how we are going to study our different exams here as well. First of all, we will be covering our syllabus. We will be completing our syllabus as we will be studying topics. So you can just use this sheet and you can highlight what topics we have covered, what topics are remaining here as well. So at the end, you can see there will be nothing left. We are going to use notes. Why? Because as I already told you that there are more than 1600 pages for your corporate reporting exam. So this will be quite challenging for you to remember, recall, revise all of these points. So you can see in front of you, I'm just showing one standard note that is basically about intangible assets. So here we have intangible assets, IAS 38. These are sample notes. So these are the contents of IAS 38. In IAS 38, we have copyright, we have patent, we have trademark. And normally students use all of these points in one word, in one line, because they think all of these are same. No, we have some differences between copyright, patent, and trademark. And at this level, examiner expect you should understand, you must be able to differentiate between copyright, patent, and trademark as well. What is R&D, research and development? We have some definitions, some points, some examples. Yes, we have some differences here as well. What do you think? What is Coca-Cola? Either it's a brand or it's a trademark. What do you think about McDonald's? It's a brand, it's a trademark. What do you think about this slogan? I am loving it. This is a slogan of McDonald's. This is a brand or this is a trademark. Curved glass bottles of Coca-Cola. Either it's a brand, it's a trademark. So these are very small, very minute point you must be able to differentiate. So these are some sample notes for all of you, and we have notes for all of your IES and IFRS basically. So all major standard, your basics, your advanced level, I will be sharing my complete notes for all of you who are going to register with us basically. This was basically about notes. Then we will be using our latest 2021 study material, because sometimes some students use like a 2020, 2019 or old. No, this is not applicable, because every year ICAEW reviews your standards, reviews your circumstances, and they update the relevant study material. So we will provide you 2021 latest study material, and then we will be using that study material. There will be some class-based and home-based assignments here as well. Some questions will be covered in class. Some questions will be solved by a question at their home site. Apart from that, there will be some regular tests. For example, we have covered some major topics, so there will be a test. That test will be reviewed, and that test results of those tests will be discussed with students as well. We will be using the question bank and past papers as a part of our practice here as well. Sometimes some students, they just ask how many questions do we need to perform. There is a no right answer, how many questions, but you must go for sufficient amount of practice. So you should use past papers, you should use question bank here as well. So what is an appropriate way, how much you have to write, because the answers of corporate reporting examiner are very huge. There is a huge length of corporate reporting examiner answer. So do you think, do you have to write at the same pace, at same length? Is it possible for you or not? So we will discuss these points in our complete session when we are going to solve our different questions here as well. And then finally, we will be having our revision classes. So once our all of these topics have been covered, so we are going to look at what are the problematic areas. We will be taking questions, queries from student, and we will be going for revision of those points. We will be revising, we will be going for more and more practice questions from question bank and past paper. And final exam tips and technique, these exam tips and techniques will not be only at the year end, only at the end of syllabus, but along we are covering our different topics. We will be sharing some of the important exam tips and techniques basically. Because if you will discuss with some of the previous students, then one of the major issue with students is basically there are a lot of issues. Time management, how they are going to manage your time. This is the biggest challenge. Apart from this, from July 2021, examiner corporate reporting, we have new exam software. So what is new exam software? How you have to use this new exam software? Apart from new exam software, we also have advanced information. So what is advanced information for your corporate reporting? How this advanced information look like? what you need to do, what is the relevant working for advanced information, how you have to analyze this advanced information, because from this advanced information, examiner has explicitly mentioned there will be approximately 10 to 15 marks for your advanced information. 10 to 50 marks of question from your advanced information. So definitely that's a very good thing. Examiner has mentioned very clearly. So how you can analyze this advanced information, how you have to use this advanced information basically. So you do not need to worry. We will be sharing the relevant techniques. We will be also going for our new exam software practice. We will be going for advanced information analysis. I will be sharing my own analysis, own points, how you should analyze this information. We will be analyzing this advanced information in our real class. Basically, we will be using the new exam software. As I am sharing my screen with you people, I will be sharing the same screen. I will be sharing the screen for new exam software, and I will be solving a live question with all of you people. So you will be seeing what are different points, what is new exam software, how we can solve different new exam, different new points in our real exam basically. So new exam software, advanced information, time management. Lastly, you will be writing up your points, your scripts, and you will be sharing your scripts with me here as well. Basically. Just give me a minute. Like this is a sample script from one of our student here as well basically. So you will be writing up your answer, you will be sharing your answers with me, I will be reviewing your script and then providing feedback, as you can see on your screen here as well. So a lot of these points are included in our corporate reporting exam, in our corporate reporting syllabus and structure here as well basically. So this was all from my side. Thank you very much all of you for joining us. If any one of you who is not able to join us live, they can ask for recording here as well basically. And lastly, we will be having some live session. We will be also having some recorded session here as well. So if you cannot attend live due to some reason, we can also share some of the recordings here as well. So these are contact details. That's all from my side. Thank you. If you have any question, then definitely you can discuss with us and I will be happy to answer questions of all of you. Thank you.